Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 6 p.m. Prime News of Camdis Television. We begin right away with the headlines. The terrorist sect Boko Haram have attacked the defense and security forces in the far north early this morning. A second attack in 3 days that has claimed some lives, increasing the level of bloodshed. The former Ivorian president Laurent Gbagbo and the present president Alassane Ouattara are making history with meeting, an act of national reconciliation, emulating by most African leaders. Another elimination of the Cameroon Olympic team. Boxer Albert Menge Ayisi was eliminated this Tuesday in the 8th round of the final. He was defeated by 5 points to 0 by the Irishman Walsh Aidan in the waterweight category. We have details in some seconds to come. Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We begin right away where Japan has offered a communication tool to the Cameroon Radio and Television, that is CRTV, worth 725 million francs to boost media coverage in Cameroon ahead of the CAN Total to take place in the country next year. The Minister of Economy, Planning and Regional Development, Al-Lamin Ousmane Meh, expressed satisfaction and encouraged the beneficiaries to use these materials judiciously. Ruth Fonyo tells us more.
Cameroon's ambition of becoming an emerging country by 2035 requires having sufficient overarching infrastructure and appropriate audiovisual equipment to support the level of economic, social, and cultural activities required for such a status. The signing ceremony of this donation to the Cameroon Radio Television, valued at 145 million Japanese yen, which is approximately 725 million francs CFA, is allocated to the purchase of equipment for a television studio.
A ceremony has witnessed once more the excellent quality of the cooperation between Japan and Cameroon. We are very pleased to receive this grant. It's the benefit of a CRTV up to 725 million. And this support is not the first one towards CRTV. Since 1990, CRTV has been the beneficiary of very strong support from Japan in implementing its infrastructure because of the fact that Japan has a very strong interest in seeing Cameroon expand in the process of covering the entire nation, be it in rural areas as well as in urban areas, such that CRTV is able to deliver the right, the appropriate, the pertinent information to the public.
Thanks to this donation, Japan is eloquently standing alongside the state of Cameroon to contribute through this communication tool the support CRTV in fine-tuning final preparatory adjustments for the CAN Total Energies in Cameroon come next year.
The government of Japan decided to finance this project to support the effort of CRTV to improve the equipment, audiovisual equipment of studio and animation of the CRTV. And we sincerely hope that our assistance to CRTV will be a great benefit for the people of Cameroon to improve the communication, audio-visual communication system.
While expressing gratitude over Japan's support through the donation of the equipment to our leading channel CRTV, the Minister Al-Lamin Ousmane Meh urged the main beneficiaries to operate judiciously and guarantee the achievement of the expected objectives.
The 10th edition of SAGO, a fair aimed at promoting government's actions, have finally kicked off in Yaoundé. The opening ceremony was done by the Minister of Communication, Emmanuel René Sadi, on behalf of the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. John Gote. Bertrand Tita has an in-depth of this story.
The 10th edition of the Fairs for the Promotion of Government Action, SAGO, opened in Yaoundé on Monday, July 26th at the Palais des Sports on the theme From the DSCE to the National Development Strategy 2020-2030, what prospect for Cameroon? The edition is generally focused on popularizing the population's development partners and other administration of the national development strategies in all sectors. The Minister of Communication, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, presided over the official opening ceremony on behalf of the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Gote.
There is an increase in the interest that people are showing for SAGO. First of all, the government itself, because, you know, some time ago people used to say that, well, government is not working, or government is not telling what he's doing. And the President of the Republic said that we should not only be satisfied by what we do, we should also let people know what we do. So that's the philosophy behind this initiative of SAGO.
3 government ministers took part in the opening ceremony. The Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, Professor Jacques Famindongo, the Minister of Communication, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, and the Minister of Economy, Planning and Regional Development, Alamin Usman May.
I wish to emphasize on the fact that becoming an emerging country by 2035 is our vision. But to get there, we need to be very structured, disciplined, work hard in order to achieve these goals. We have prepared ourselves. We have our strategy. We have prepared ourselves. We have our operational map. We have prepared ourselves. We have the human resources and we have the natural resources. It's up to all Cameroonians now to make structural transformation of our economy a reality. Inclusive development, something felt not only in the rural area, but also in the urban area, which means that inclusion should remain the main target of our development strategy.
For the first time, 3 foreign countries will share in this year's edition of SAGO. The private sector is strongly involved in exhibiting the role it intends to play in the implementation of government national development strategy.
We now move over to the far north region of the country, where the Islamic sect Boko Haram have carried out a deadly attack on the defense and security forces of Cameroon, an incident that is occurring 3 days just after the previous one. Bertrand Tida has an in-depth in the following story.
According to information, 5 soldiers lost their lives in this second attack within 3 days in the far north region. This Boko Haram attack that took place on the night of Monday to Tuesday, July 27th at around 3 a.m. did not unfold like any other previous attacks. The terrorists have, according to our information, burned a position of the soldiers of the army on mission in the far north region. Provisional unofficial assessment, 5 dead burned alive at Zigagwe post 30 kilometers from Waza, extreme north of the country. Recall that in a statement published yesterday, Monday, July 26th, the Cameroonian Ministry of Defense gave the results of another violent terrorist attack suffered by Cameroonian soldiers during the operation in the far north region of the country at the end of last week. On the morning of Saturday, July 24, 2021, at about 4 a.m., a host of Boko Haram terrorists heavily armed and on board light tactical vehicles attacked the outpost of the military Operation Emergence 4 located in the town of Sakmer, Fotoko sub-division in the Logon and Shari division of the far north region. During the attack, 8 Cameroonian soldiers lost their lives with 13 seriously wounded who were evacuated to the military hospital in Mariwa for appropriate follow-up. Several attackers neutralized. Their bodies were carried away during the retreat of the terrorists in accordance with their habit in such circumstances. These were the contents of the release signed by Captain Atonfak Goemo Cyril of the Ministry of Defense.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just watching us, you're watching the 6 p.m. Prime News of Camdis Television from Yaoundé, the capital city of Cameroon. We now move over to Ivory Coast, where the former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo has made, since his return to his native land and his meeting with the present President Alassane Ouattara, the Ivorian ambassador to Cameroon says this is an act worth emulating by African leaders. We'll have to listen to an excerpt of the Ivorian ambassador to Cameroon, but before that, it is important to know that Tabi Clarkson, that is our chief of programs, is going to come up to tell us more on what is actually taking place in that part of the country. We'll listen to an excerpt of the Ivorian ambassador to Cameroon. His excerpt.
In Africa, our countries encounter a lot of problems, and we are convinced that if, you put emphasis on dialogue, you will reach a lot of things, because frustration is not good for our process. Frustration is not good for many countries, many citizens. It is the reason why sometimes you have to take time to listen our people and to try to finalize something in order to avoid misunderstanding and war. This is this reason we think the symbolism we are giving to African countries is high.
There's hope for peace to be in Cote d'Ivoire.
We are convinced the peace process is ongoing.
As earlier mentioned, we'll be joined in the studio by our Chief of Information, Tabi Clarkson, to tell us more on the issues that have been going on between Laurent Gbagbo and Alassane Ouattara. You're welcome, sir.
Good evening to you, and Umeko, how are you?
I'm doing good. So, according to you, what is the interpretation you can give to the meeting between Ouattara and Gbagbo?
Before coming to the interpretation between Gbagbo and, of course, Alassane Ouattara, the meeting which is going on, it's important to note that all started in 2010. In 2010, after the presidential election, the Independent or the Constitutional Council recognized Laurent Gbagbo, the incumbent Laurent Gbagbo at that time, as the winner of the elections. But then, the Independent Electoral Commission recognized rather Alassane Ouattara as the winner of the election. And when I talk of the Independent Electoral Commission, equally with the international community. And the results, the votes were very close. We're talking of 54, 46. It was very close. And so President Gbagbo at that time did not recognize the victory of Alassane Ouattara. And that is how violence erupted in Cote d'Ivoire. People were killed. We are talking of over 3,000 people were actually killed in Cote d'Ivoire after the post. We are talking of the post-electoral violence in Cote d'Ivoire or in Ivory Coast. So the meeting today between both men, after 2010, we are in 2021, over 11 years after, both men are meeting today. I think it's an important message.
Tabi, can you remind us of the incidents that are surrounding the crisis in the Ivory Coast?
Talking about the incidents or the happenings in Cote d'Ivoire. In 1900, I will take you back in 1960. To say that in 1960, there was a man called Houphouët-Boigny. He was the first president, the president or the man who took the Ivorians to independence. They call him Houphouët-Boigny. He stayed at the presidency from 1960 up to 1993. He stayed there for 33 good years. He was a father of independence. He was a father of the Ivorians. Today in Cote d'Ivoire, we cannot talk of Cote d'Ivoire without making mention of the name Houphouët-Boigny. After Houphouët-Boigny, names like Konan Bédié, President Konan Bédié came up, and then we had other names, the Laurent Gbagbo, the Alassane Ouattara, but then we have two guys, very young guys who equally are making history in Cote d'Ivoire. We have the former Prime Minister and former president of the National Assembly in Côte d'Ivoire. They call him Guillaume Soro. And the Minister of Youth Affairs in Côte d'Ivoire, Blé Goudé. So Ivorians are fighting to make things happen, to reconcile within themselves, because nothing is important than reconciliation. And as the ambassador was saying, because we had the opportunity to meet the Ivorian ambassador to Cameroon today, His Excellency Malan, he actually told us that in Côte d'Ivoire, dialogue is the second religion. It simply means how Ivorians take reconciliation very important. It's true that many people have died. It's true that many sacrifices have been made. But Ivorians today, they have decided to reconcile. And that is why President Gbagbo, he was actually jailed, President Gbagbo, by the ICJ, the International Criminal Court of Justice at The Hague. He was acquitted. He went to Belgium. He has come back now to Côte d'Ivoire, and he is meeting President Alassane Dramane Ouattara today. Is something very, very, very important. And when we talk of Côte d'Ivoire, we equally talk sports, because it makes us to think of people like Didier Drogba. And when we talk of Didier Drogba, we talk of Samuel Eto'o. That is why we say Cameroonians and Ivorians, they are brothers, they are friends, and of course, they are everything.
Tabi, if Ivorians are seeking for reconciliation and peace, don't you think it is time for Cameroonians to copy that example?
It is really time for us to copy that example. A while ago, I was telling you that in Côte d'Ivoire, dialogue is the second religion. It's just like a religion. In Cameroon, it's football, which is just like a religion. But we think that the time has come for us to dialogue and dialogue and dialogue and dialogue to end the Anglophone crisis. Mm-hmm. It's a message that the Ivorians are sending to us. The meeting between Gbagbo and President Alassane Dramane Ouattara is a message that the Ivorians are sending to Africa and equally to the world. I don't want to compare it with the Bakassi Palaver or the Bakassi incident between the Nigerians and, of course, Cameroonians. We saw how peacefully President Paul Biya succeeded in solving this saga. So I want to see the meeting between the Ivorian President Alassane Dramane Ouattara and, of course, Laurent Gbagbo is an important moment that we as Africans, we as a people, we as Cameroonians, we can equally take that into consideration, given the security situation in the country, given what is happening in the Northwest and Southwest regions. I think there is nothing which is more than dialogue. We need to sit down and dialogue. We have had the major national dialogue. From every indication, it was not satisfactory. We need to come back again and sit down and dialogue to make our country, our great country, Cameroon, great again.
Thank you, Otabi Clarkson. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Chief of Information for Camdis Television. We now take you over to something else where an elimination for Cameroon Olympic athletes has just been occurred. The boxer Albert Menge has been eliminated in the 8th round of the final with 3 points to 0. Let's listen in the following report.
There are now 9 in numbers. The effective Cameroon Olympic team has reduced very early this Tuesday, July 27, with the elimination of boxer Albert Menge in the 8th round of the final. He is the Cameroonian athlete who distinguished himself from the start of these games with a great victory, but unfortunately bowed to the Irishman Walsh Eden, a strong opponent for the Cameroonian boxer. Out of the 12 athletes that began the game, we will have to count on these 9 athletes for the next Cameroonian outings, as we will be having in boxing Maxime Yengnong for the 8th round of the final this Thursday. The swimming team, still on standby, will enter the scene next Friday. The team is made up of Milanese Nora in the 50 meters swimming freestyle, a great hope of the African Championship team and 5-time medal bearer at the last African Swimming Championship. The judo team will begin this Wednesday, July 28 at exactly 3 o'clock in the morning with Ayuk Ote Odre Sofina in the 70 kilogram category. She will face Corinne Kim Senyong in the 16th round of the final. At the Continental continental level, the list of medals is increasing as South Africa joins the list with silver medals, one at the serve with South African Bianca. The only gold medal of the continent remains Tunisia with the young Ahmed Hafni in this 2021 edition, where Japan, United States and China are leading the way in the global ranking.
That report was done to us by Gerardine Anasi. We now move out of the country once more, where Honoré Chama, a university student in Kinshasa University at the Democratic Republic of Congo, has been shot to death by a police for not wearing his face mask. The university students have been protesting and condemning the act of this policeman. Let's have details in the following report. Students continue to protest at the University of Kinshasa campus in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where police are regularly accused of harassment and of pocketing mass fines they collect. The protest started after a police officer shot a student over the weekend for not wearing a face mask while filming on the streets of the capital. According to Dan, a student in the literature department of the University of Kinshasa, it remains a shocking event because Honoré Chama had come to the campus to study like any other student. Certainly, he could have been a future executive of the country, but they don't understand what actually happened. Quite unfortunate, he has just been killed because of a face mask that doesn't even cost 100 francs CFA. Equatorial Guinea announced that it was closing its embassy in London after the United Nations imposed sanctions against Théodore Nguema Obiang, the vice president and son of the country's veteran president, for allegedly siphoning state assets into his own bank accounts. Foreign Minister Simeon Oyono Esono told the national TV that he did not accept interference in the Central African state domestic affairs and said that the sanctions were breaching the principle of international law. Government has taken the decision to totally close diplomatic missions in London. Equatorial Guinea on Saturday lashed the sanctions as unilateral and illegal. The baseless sanctions imposed by the British government find their justifications in manipulation, in lies that certain non-governmental organizations are fomenting against the good image of Equatorial Guinea. The government added that the younger Obiang has not made any investment in the United Kingdom. This reaction from Equatorial Guinea comes days after the British government decided to freeze Obiang's assets and bar him entry to the United Kingdom. According to British authorities, the president's son would have concluded corrupt contracting arrangements and solicited bribes to support his jet-setting lifestyle. They claim he has pledged $500 million as mansions around the world, luxurious cars, and a collection of Michael Jackson's memorabilia, including $275 crystal-covered glove that the singer wore on his 1987 and 89 battle. Allegations that resonate with charges brought against him. France, accused of money laundering. The junior Obiang is already entangled in a dispute with France over 107 million euro mansions in Paris, Swan Avenue Forge, that was seized. In February 2020, a French court handed him a 3-year suspension sentence and a 30 million euro fine and a confiscation of his assets in France. The final ruling is highly expected from the Court of the Cassation, the paramount tribunal in France's judicial system. That report brings us to the end of our English Prime News over Camdis television. And before we go away, here are the major headlines. The terrorist sect Boko Haram has attacked the defense and security forces in the far north region early this morning. A second attack in 3 days that has claimed some lives, increasing bloodshed in the country. The former Ivorian president Laurent Gbagbo and the present president Alassane Ouattara are making history with a meeting, an act of national reconciliation worth emulating by most African leaders. Another elimination for Cameroon Olympic team, boxer Albert Menge Ayisi was eliminated this Tuesday in the 8th round of the final. He was defeated by 5-0 by the Irish Welsh Aiden in the waterweight category. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. But before we go, I want to remind you that we received in the studio our Chief of Information, Tabby Clarkson, who threw more light on the historic event that is going on between the Ivorian president, the former and present Alassane Ouattara and Laurent Gbagbo. A call to all Cameroonians to seek reconciliation, peace and unity to make the country a wonderful one. Have a blessed evening in the company of our programs.